brought my little friend, Mr. Thrifty, and I would like to actually show and talk very briefly about hip anatomy. Because I think if we know how things are working or looking and possible to work, we'll work them differently. It's actually very round. Here's a screw missing. And the thigh bone can be very round, very circular, moving in the leg. So there's a lot of movement lifting the leg up. There's not so much movement going back because then we're talking to ligaments and muscles. But this is kind of the possibility that we have in our joint, very much round. Why do we need a lot of movement ability in the hip? Because if we don't have that, if our hip is locked into place, all of a sudden things like this happen. So the pelvis is kind of getting tight here and hamstrings tight here, and it's getting pushed forward, and we end up standing like this, and then we're trying to stand upright, and that's just not happening because the pelvis is in this tucked forward position it won't let us physically stand upright. If there is an imbalance, too much tightness, too much weakness, usually a combination of both. Connect with the feet and keeping the knees bent, the more you should be starting to feel activating and engaging in the hip, in the glute, in the legs. Very good, obviously. Now, what can I do with my leg on the hip? So this was more hip on legs. The legs were almost stable and the hip was moving. So how does it look when my leg moves and my hip doesn't? So again, if you need to hold on to something, definitely do that. You know, here's a little something. I'm going to sit into my left sassy hip and I'm going to pick up my right leg. This is what we call hip flexion. And we do this a lot in Pilates on the equipment. This is something that is so important. And for most people, what I see is kind of like the rounded lower back. And then this is very much inhibited because we're already overstretched here. The brain won't let you go any further. Right? We can free our pelvis and are not stuck here. If you need to sit on something, if you need to sit on a block, if you need to sit on a thicker pillow, please do that. It doesn't matter where you start, right? It doesn't matter how your hips look like today. It matters what we can do with them. Okay, so cross-legged, my right foot is in front, in the outside of your hip. Most of us are too stuck, rotated outward and wide, so that this position is quite challenging. And then let's just use your hands on the floor, and you're going to just rock a little bit side to side. Here we go again. We're hiking the hip up and shifting to the other side and hiking that hip up, standing and find a forward bend. My feet are a little bit more than shoulder distance apart, just enough to have good support. My knees are bent and my head is dropping. I am looking through my legs. I am not looking to the floor. And let's find your side to side. We're going to push the earth, pull the front foot really down into the floor to not stretch those front hamstrings. Turn on your glutes, make a muscle with your buttocks if you can. I hope you can. And shifting, kind of like a little bit of a diagonal shift actually. So slightly forward and left, and then slightly back and right. Very good. In and up, fingertips on the floor. Soft shoulders, really easy in the shoulders. Options here, keep your fingertips. Try not to go super far down. We're not looking to take the forehead to the floor here. Push your legs down, especially that right one. After 5 of those, we're going to add our internal rotation. Knees and toes turn to the floor. Bend the knee and lower down. Leg lifts and we're turning in. flex the right foot, reach through the heel, getting a little more of the whole leg to show up. And we'll do one more time, and then we'll keep that leg out. And we're going to do little circles. Now, if your hips are very open, if your abdominals are very much connected, you can go pretty big here. Your main focus is we're not going to move the pelvis, because if the pelvis moves and the leg moves, it's a little mishmash. We can't really, it's like, what is working? We don't want the spine to move the leg. We're moving the leg. Narrower if you want to challenge this. Try not to be too wide. You can bring the feet all the way close together, of course. All right, here we go. Shoulders are pulling down toward the floor and towards your heels, and your heels pull, feet pull up toward the shoulders. I'm looking straight up to the ceiling. I'm going to keep my heavy sits bones. My butt is sticking out, and then I'm slowly starting to pick up the pelvis. Go really small for the first one. Are both legs working the same? Are you already shifted? Potentially, you already shifted to your stronger leg. So try and give the other leg some love. Dropping the diaphragm. Feet a little further. Legs almost straight. You're going to take the hands behind you. Thumbs face out, fingertips face back. You could just sit here. Squeeze the shoulders together. You're going to anteriorly tilt the pelvis. Again, we're trying not to be in the tuck. Pull the sits bones behind you. Squeeze the shoulders, bend the elbows. This could be it. You're going to look up toward the ceiling. You're going to pull your heels down into the floor. You're already working. You're opening the pecs up, but at the same time, grab on with your fingers to the floor. You're working hard. If you can, lift your pelvis. Breathing, keep pulling the heels down. If you can, straighten the legs a little more. And then how high can you lift your hip without hyperextending your knees? Tone, so I said relaxation. In a way, usually our back body is too lifted up. We relaxed it, yet we tone it at the same time. So the front body and the back body come closer. They're going to become even, and that's what allows us to stand upright better, walk better, jump better, live better. All right. Wow, that's crazy light here. Thank you so much for being part of this today and always. I hope you enjoyed the class. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any requests, of course, please let me know. I'm most